The Grand Teton Mountains in Wyoming have always been a place of silence. A place where the noise of Wall Street feels a million miles away. But this year, at the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium, the silence was different. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the kind of silence you hear right before a dam breaks. On August 22nd, Jerome Powell took the stage. The markets were waiting for a celebration. They were waiting for him to declare victory over inflation. They were waiting for the mission accomplished banner. And on the surface, that is what he gave them. He signaled that the time for interest rate cuts had finally arrived. The stock market cheered. The algorithms bought. The green candles shot up. But if you looked closely at his eyes, and if you listened to the specific words he chose to describe the labor market, you realized something terrifying. This wasn't a victory lap. This was a rescue mission. The Federal Reserve is not pivoting because they have won. They are pivoting because something in the devastatingly complex machinery of the American economy has finally snapped. The narrative of the soft landing is being quietly retired. In its place, a new, darker reality is emerging. Today, we are going to translate Jerome Powell's warnings into plain English. We are going to look at the data he is afraid to say out loud. And we are going to explain why the pivot might actually be the beginning of the crash. For 2 years, the Fed held rates at a 23-year high. They squeezed the economy to kill inflation. They told us that the labor market was robust. They told us that the consumer was resilient. They gaslight us with data that kept getting revised downward months later. But at Jackson Hole, the denial ended. Powell admitted that the cooling in the labor market is unmistakable. He used phrases like downside risks and prevention. Let me tell you a secret about central bankers. They never use the word recession until we are already in one. Instead, they say things like the balance of risks has shifted. That is code. That means the unemployment rate is ticking up faster than their models predicted. That means the SOM rule, the most accurate recession indicator in history, is flashing red. The job openings are vanishing. The hiring rate has collapsed to levels we haven't seen since 2014, excluding the pandemic. The Great Resignation is over. The Great Stay has begun. People aren't quitting their jobs anymore because they are terrified they won't find another one. Powell knows this. He knows that if unemployment goes from 4.2% to 5%, it won't stop there. It becomes a feedback loop. People lose jobs, they stop spending, companies earn less, companies fire more people. The cycle has started, but why is this happening now? Why, after all this time, is the engine stalling? The answer lies in the wallet of the average American. For 3 years, the US economy was running on a sugar high. The stimulus checks, the pause on student loans, the excess savings from the lockdowns, it created an illusion of wealth. But Powell's speech subtly acknowledged that the fuel tank is empty. Look at the credit card data. Balances are at an all-time high. But more importantly, delinquencies, people missing their payments, are skyrocketing, especially in the auto loan sector. The American consumer is 70% of the GDP. When the consumer stops buying, the economy stops moving. We are seeing a bifurcated economy. The rich, who own assets and stocks, are doing fine because the market is up. But the bottom 50%, the people who actually work for a living, are drowning in debt and high prices. Powell's high interest rates didn't just hurt inflation, they hurt the working class. And now, cutting rates by 25 or 50 basis points isn't going to magically fix a household balance sheet that has been destroyed by 3 years of cost of living crisis. The damage is done. Here is the tragedy of the situation. The market believes that as soon as the Fed cuts rates, everything goes back to the easy money era of 2021. Mortgage rates will drop, housing will boom, and we will all be rich. This is a dangerous delusion. History shows us that the stock market usually crashes after the first rate cut, not before. But because the Fed only cuts rates when they see blood in the water, they are reacting to a slowing economy. Furthermore, we have a new problem that didn't exist in 2008 or 2020. It is the specter of stagflation. Powell mentioned the changing landscape of global trade. He hinted at the new tariffs and the fragmentation of the global supply chain. This is critical. If the US enters a trade war, or if geopolitical tensions rise in the Middle East or Asia, the cost of goods will go up. Imagine a scenario where the economy is crashing, unemployment rising, so the Fed cuts rates to print money. But at the same time, tariffs make Walmart and Amazon prices go up. You get recession and inflation at the same time. The Fed has no tool for this. If they print money, inflation kills the currency. If they stop printing, the depression kills the jobs. This is the corner they have painted themselves into. Here is the tragedy of the situation. The market believes that as soon as the Fed cuts rates, everything goes back to the easy money era of 2021. Mortgage rates will drop, housing will boom, and we will all be rich. This is a dangerous delusion. History shows us that the stock market usually crashes after the first rate cut, not before. But because the Fed only cuts rates when they see blood in the water, they are reacting to a slowing economy. Furthermore, we have a new problem that didn't exist in 2008 or 2020. It is the specter of stagflation. Powell mentioned the changing landscape of global trade. He hinted at the new tariffs and the fragmentation of the global supply chain. This is critical. If the US enters a trade war, or if geopolitical tensions rise in the Middle East or Asia, the cost of goods will go up. Imagine a scenario where the economy is crashing, unemployment rising, so the Fed cuts rates to print money. But at the same time, tariffs make Walmart and Amazon prices go up. You get recession and inflation at the same time. The Fed has no tool for this. If they print money, inflation kills the currency. If they stop printing, the depression kills the jobs. This is the corner they have painted themselves into. So, what does this mean for you? The speech at Jackson Hole 2025 marks the official end of the post-pandemic cycle. We are entering a new regime. The volatility is back. The safety nets are gone. The put option, the idea that the Fed will always save the stock market, is being tested against the hard reality of inflation. Powell is trying to land a jumbo jet on a needle. He calls it a recalibration. But in reality, it is a gamble. He is betting that he can lower rates fast enough to stop a recession, but slow enough to stop inflation from coming back. The odds are not in his favor. As you watch the headlines cheer for rate cuts, remember this: you don't take painkillers unless you are in pain. The Fed is opening the medicine cabinet because the patient, the US economy, is sick. The storm hasn't passed. The eye of the storm just moved over us. The winds on the other side are going to be colder, harder, and much more destructive. Don't be distracted by the green candles on the screen. Look at the fundamentals. Look at the jobs. Look at the debt. The great reversal has begun.